just talking about the PFL card. But what's up, guys? I got Billy Briz with me. I got Fitz with me. We're going to be doing the UFC Abu Dhabi breakdown. Just talk about PFL card a little bit. I mean, I'm not a big PFL fan, but they got a low bar for me, so I thought this was a decent card for them. I mean, what did you guys think of at least the co-main event and the main event where Ditcheva, like what do you think about Ditcheva versus people in the UFC like Alexa Grasso or people like that?
I mean, I think we got to see the Talia Santos fight first. I mean, that fight's going to be telling. I would think Talia beats her. You think she's going to smoke Talia?
Dude, I mean, did you Talia she has to suffer the first or second time she takes her down, dude. I mean, the way that she got up against Jenna was really impressive, man. I mean, because Jenna's a better she's a better grappler than Talia. Well, I mean, look at her.
I'm not too familiar. So I won't say. But that feels like
she's a jiu-jitsu world champion, Jenna Bishop. I mean, and if you look at the third round with her and Talia, I mean, when she took Talia down, she took her back. It was easily controlling her, So I don't know. It was just impressive how she got up like that.
I mean, Dakota's a City fan, so I gotta root for her. She always does the Man City celebrations.
I mean, fuck, dude. I bet on Jenna. So obviously, I was kind of I feel like this is one of the last times you can maybe fade Dakota. It was a grappler that never been finished that had cardio, and she just kind of ran through her. So at this point, I feel she's going to beat Tyler, and I think she'll stay in PFL. I mean, they have to keep some people, but she came to UFC. I feel like she could definitely be one of the best in the world. I mean, what do you think, Billy?
I'll say I like the stuff that PFL is doing. They're trending in the right direction. A lot of noticeable names on the prelims. Dakota definitely seems like that's their new Kayla Harrison training out American Top Team. But I would say most impressive for me is Cody Law tonight, man, on the prelims, dude, laying down the law. Granted, I guess it was a bad regional scene fighter, but I think his performance showed that he's probably going to get put in the 145 division. And there's some fun fights for Cody Law, the 145 division over in PFL rather than him fighting in Bellator and kind of being hidden. If you told me Brandon Loughnane versus Cody Law, I'm in.
Yeah, I think Cody Law needs to, I don't know. He lost to that James Gonzalez guy and stuff. So I want to see him against a real opponent. That guy he fought today, like you said, it was just kind of whatever. But hopefully he gets in the season, like you said, so he'll fight real guys. But yeah, what about the main event? You think Goltsov is gonna finally get that million, or you got who is he gonna fight in the main event?
Popov.
Oh, okay.
Popov, man. He's legit, man. 17-fight winning streak. I guess because he's with Fedor, he signed to the PFL, but it feels like a 32-year-old 17-fight win streak heavyweight that has never been knocked out should be in the UFC. So I think Oleg Popov is the goods. He's right up there with a lot of the heavyweights, regardless of promotion.
Yeah, he looked good today, but I'm just a little worried about 5 rounds with him though, because it doesn't seem like he's a big finisher. You know what I mean? And he has such a wrestle heavy style.
And it's Goltsov. He's always been the bridesmaid, never the bride. He's made it to 2 finals and hasn't won it. I mean, that's never
that's the thing. It's so we'll see. I mean, what do you think? Do you have a lean on that, Fitz? You're not too into that one. Goltsov or Popov? Nah, not too much. Yeah, I mean, just PFL. I feel like they got it.
It's almost unwatchable for me because of the time they take in between fights. Man, it's ridiculous. This speed of the event is awful, man. And I'm a little ADHD antsy. I can't sit still and man, there's no flow. It cuts to the fucking background after the events. They got to do a better job. But, the final, it's going to be a good final. 2 Russians, I mean, you say you worry about the 5 rounds. What's the likelihood it gets there? Probably pretty low,
Well, I think if Popov wins, it's probably going to be it could go to decision. Because, if you look, he doesn't I mean, I've never seen him drop anybody on the feet with strikes. He's just goes for that single leg and then lays on people. But He
I don't
could
know.
like
He fought way different than he did in PFL. Like I don't blame him. The PFL is a little bit different. You kind of don't want to accrue damage with how frequent you're fighting. So he's just kind of
yeah.
That's a great point. Yeah.
heavyweights can't wrestle. So why not just wrestle them all and just win decisions? It's not like
Yeah.
you're getting paid a performance bonus. Like the performance bonus is making it to the championship.
A
No, yeah,
million,
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah. But it's like thing about that sucks for wrestlers too. Like in PFLs, you can't throw elbows, so it's like
I mean, we
that's a
saw
big
Taylor
issue too.
Harrison looked in their first fight outside the PFL
Yeah,
with her throwing
it's like
elbows. She fucking dominated.
yeah, like because like if you could throw elbows, that like ups your finishing rate as like a wrestler by so much. Like especially now, dude. Those new rules that's gonna be cool too. Like where
12 to
the
6
grounding rules and
elbows.
shit. Yeah, and the 12-6. So man, I want him to get fucking knees on the ground though. Like I don't care about being down. I mean that shit would be the best, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, man, let's get into this fight card, this fight breakdown. So you got it up here, Fitz. But he
Yeah.
said Cody Law by sub, Pope off decision. Yeah, hell yeah, man. You cleaned up on that. That's good shit. And yeah, I had 3 bets on this card. I had a bet on Diedrich Sanders, which dude, I don't know if you guys watched that fight, but Sanders was like plus 225 or something, and he went out there and just starched the guy real quick. So it was a great fight for me. And then had a bet on Jenna Bishop, which wasn't a good bet. In hindsight, Dakota kind of passed that test, and then obviously I had the bet on knockout for Goltoff in the main event. So did good on this card, and yeah, man, let's try to parlay that in tomorrow. So let's get in this first fight of the night. I'll let Fitz go first on this one. We got Dennis Tulin against Cedricus Dumas here.
Yeah, fucking great honor you gave me letting opening up with this one because this is a shitty fight, man. I'm on Dumas, but he's too high of a favorite, man. He should really, in my opinion, never be like a minus 250. It has to be against someone like Dennis Tulin, but I just see no path to victory for Dennis here. I think Cedric's gonna probably get a decision. Use that grappling, but I don't know. We saw Cedric get a lot of KOs on the regional scene before he came into the UFC. And I know Dennis, typically gets finished by sub, but not by knockout. But something was telling me Dumas might get a KO. That's plus 300. So, might take a stab at that. But I think decision is a better play. But I think Dumas is a pretty safe like parlay piece. I really don't think Dennis Tulinen, has too many opportunities to win this fight or any fight for that matter in the UFC.
Yeah, what about you, Billy? You think Tulin has any value?
I feel like the public sentiment in like the MMA spaces have kind of like killed like what we think of Dumas isn't like what the promotion thinks of Dumas. Like they're kind of high on him. They've put him on some higher profile spots. Granted, he was kind of like the B-side in Norton Ruziboev matchup, but still, granted, like for a guy like Cedric Dumas and his background, like he's definitely made some strides in MMA. I would say with Tululin, his record's kind of deceiving because his losses are good losses. CLD, Robocop, Junyun Park, Kazriev, Alizriev. I mean, I feel like if Dumas fought any of those people, he would probably lose and be like I'd be like a plus 300 underdog in all those fights too. So it's like hard to kind of gauge the level of competition. Will Tululin look better? He's been trained out of the Elov gym in Russia. So that's the gym that Renat Fakhretdinov trains out of. So maybe that helps his anti-grappling. The over's kind of getting juiced here. It was like minus 140. Now it's up to minus 175. But I think this goes over 1.5 total rounds. But I don't mind a Dumas submission or decision at minus 105 if you're on the Dumas side and you don't want to pay for a chalk or like Dumas and the over 1.5 in a same game parlay. I think Dumas should win. Is just like I'm not giddying up about paying a minus 225 price tag on it.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, you guys kind of broke this fight down, talked about how it isn't a great fight, and I just don't see much value on this fight at all. Like, originally, when they first fought, like, the fight goes to decision was like plus 300, man, when they were first booked, and I bet that, but now it's like plus, like you said, even the over 1.5 rounds got juiced, but fight goes to decision plus 160, like, 163 at best. I just don't think it's like great value all around. So yeah, I mean, I would just pass on that first fight, but they give you a couple angles. I know it's kind of hard to pass on fights for some people, but this next one, Jai Herbert versus Rolando Bedoya. I mean, this is another tricky one. I mean, the line closed up quite a bit, so if you like Jai Herbert, I mean, you could get even money by fight time potentially, but I feel like it should be closer to a pick 'em. I mean, Herbert and Bedoya didn't look good in their last fight, but if anyone's gonna come back and look better, it's probably gonna be the younger guy with Bedoya off the both of them had like year-long layoffs. But I don't know. I don't have a ton of interest in this fight either, but I think Jai will win this one. I mean, what do you guys think? Is anyone going with the underdog or had like a good bet where they got like Bedoya like plus 160 or something?
Yeah, I'm actually going to lean Bedoya. I didn't get the line earlier in the week like I would have liked to. It's really closed up now, but I'm not overly confident because I think it could be a really close, kind of a boring fight, to be honest. But I liked Bedoya not in the fight against Keenan Song, but I thought the volume was there against Chaos Williams. And if he's able to land, a lot of significant strikes against Herbert, for me, Herbert's a little low volume, even though he'll probably be the cleaner striker. Bedoya could beat him with the volume, I think, and push the pace. He's going to be hungry 0-2 in the UFC, fighting for his contract, and moving down a weight class, which so clearly he's had to put the work in for the camp. And I think this is going to be the best showing we get of Bedoya. As far as Herbert goes, I just really haven't liked how he looked. I know he had that draw against Ludwig Klein, which, on paper is good. The fight wasn't too great. The win over Kyle Nelson, again, on paper, pretty good. But if you watch the fight, just not a great performance. Really bad fight, that one. And the last performance was really poor, too, in my opinion. So I just am kind of leaning Bedoya. Originally picked Herbert, but I've flipped to the underdog.
I'll say for Herbert, I think it's a huge red flag that he wasn't on that Manchester card last week. He's a former Cage Warriors lightweight champion. He's done a lot of his work in Cage Warriors, trains in England. So it just kind of baffles me that he wasn't on the card last weekend. It feels like every Cage Warriors alumni on the roster was on the card last week. I mean, shit, we had two former Cage Warriors champions going at it on the prelims last week, and Jake Hadley and Colin Laverne. So I think that's a huge red flag. And with Bedoya, he's moving down a weight class, like Fitz was saying. And granted, he has 2 losses in the UFC, but I think volume is going to be the key for this one. Herbert has yet to throw more than 50 significant strikes in any of his UFC fights. And we have a pretty good sample size of his UFC fights at 2-4-1. Bedoya in back-to-back fights threw 149 and 112 strikes, and he was getting pieced up in that last one, and he still threw 112. I think he's going to be the bigger, younger, faster striker here. I think Bedoya is one of the better prelim bets on the card.
Okay. Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if he goes off as the betting favorite. Like, it's trending towards that market-wise. If you look at the market on the money line, it's closing down the damn near a pick 'em. I think by the time that fight goes off, it's going to be like a minus 115, minus 105, or vice versa. I think Bedoya becomes the favorite.
You know what's funny, like how fast MMA can change too? Because like last week I was talking to a few people and they were like saying like, oh man, like Jai's getting a whole training camp with Leon, like they have great vibes, it's gonna be a title fight and shit. But now it's probably like I don't know if you could really like Leon didn't look great, maybe like Renegade, their gym is like down morale wise too. So I don't know. Jai Herbert has in my opinion a little bit of pressure on him. He has to kind of try to come back and right the wrong there. But yeah, you guys kind of swayed me a little bit, but I don't know. I kind of missed the line, I guess. Like at this point, I don't know if you guys.
I don't think so, though. I don't think so, though. I think the biggest thing for Bedoya was it's like sometimes in MMA, it's not like other sports where we have a lot of information about these fighters and stuff like that. When a fighter's moving down from 170 to 155, that's a significant amount of weight where I kind of want to watch them on the scales and see how they look at the scales. And when we saw Bedoya on the scales early this morning today, he looked jacked. Like the rest of his other fights, when he weighed in on the scales, he kind of looked like pudgy in the stomach. This one, that means he had to work on his cardio to move down to 155, and I think that's only going to help him out. He actually looked like he had like a six-pack on him, so I'm all in. I think the vice versa of like waiting on the line was for the information that we needed, and like him making weight and looking good was pretty big for me to kind of finally move in on it.
Yeah, that's true. Jack Herbert was the guy when Dan Hardy got stuck. First, he got fucked up by Trinaldo, man. But yeah, Billy, you can go first on this one. Sam Hughes versus Victoria Dudakova. Are you confident in Dudakova, or are you kind of like seeing some red flags there?
I'll give Dudakova the benefit of the doubt. I feel like she's done a good job of handling adversity throughout her early portion of her UFC career so far. Both of her fights haven't really gone the exact way that she's probably has thought her UFC career has gone. But I'll give Sam Hughes credit. She's a tough fighter, but like tough doesn't mean that you're good. Like that means you just kind of wait for other girls to gas out and then you kind of take over in the fight. And I don't think that's going to be here for this one. I think it's going to be the other way around where Sam Hughes probably gets off to a fast start and Dudakova comes around in the second and third round. This fight kind of reminds me a little bit of the Shauna Bonham fight from the prelims from last week, where like Shauna Bonham was kind of like a slight favorite. The line kind of came down, but the market wasn't really correct. It was a 1-1 fight going into the third round, and then the favorite kind of ends up winning. I think Dudakova wins by decision. Her to win by decision is – I probably would take round 3 or decision, because her to win by decision is plus 120, but round 3 or decisions minus 110. And I wouldn't rule out a late finish like on Sam Hughes. Like I just don't think tough is not a good definition of good.
Yeah. What about you, Fitz? What do you think, man?
Yeah, I got to pass here just because of some red flags from Dudakova, especially pulling out of the fight in AC, minutes before the fight, she had, the staff in the butthole, as we talked about, which could have led to her gassing out. But I think she slowed down against Jinyu Frey a little bit towards the end of the fight. But Sam Hughes just isn't the type of fighter I want to be picking in a fight, And really, I don't even hate the line on Dudakova at minus 170. I think she can look pretty solid. But just some red flags keeping me away from picking her, to be honest.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, me personally, I don't think the line's bad, honestly. I mean, as long as Dudakova just fights to her best capability, she's gonna more than likely win. I mean, you have seen some stuff though, like you said, that Jinyu Frey fight, round 2, like she got held down the whole round by Jinyu Frey. So if Sam Hughes gets on top, she's gonna control her. So that's a little bit scary, but I feel like Victoria is better everywhere on the feet, wrestling, grappling. I mean, the only way Hughes could win is if Dudakova makes mistakes and lets her get on top of her and kind of grind her out, I don't agree with Billy, though. I don't really see a finish possibility for Dudakova that much. I mean, she hasn't been able to finish some of these girls that I don't think are
just wild, though, bro.
But like Sam Hughes didn't get finished against like top, like really good girls, man. Like Loma, Luana Pinheiro.
Dudakova, the win by submission straight up is plus 850, and her to win by submission in round 2 is 30-1. For her to win by submission in round 3 is 38-1. That's just wild to me. I think that's where she wins, is the grappling, and like at that point, like you could walk yourself into a submission. Like I wouldn't be like. At 38-1, I'm not saying put your fucking life savings on it. I mean, like, It's worth the $5 fucking sprinkle. I mean, like, women's MMA, there's always value on the finishing props. Like, more than likely, I think Dudakova probably wins a 29-28 close decision.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
So, but yeah, this next fight, man, this is an awesome fight right here with Guram Kudrlazzi versus Jordan Vucinic. And I think the line's pretty much accurate on this one. I mean, I don't see a ton of value. These Guram, to me, he's really good. I feel like Gurum's like one of the most skilled guys in the weight. Like if you look at his striking, he has really good defense most of the time and good pressure. When he lets his hands go, he has power. He attacks the body well. And then I feel like he has some of the best clinch offense in like the entire UFC, man. It's really good. But he has like, I don't know what it is. I think he probably cuts too much weight, man, because you'll see him like he doesn't have the best durability and then he doesn't throw a lot of volume. I feel like so it's just he has like I honestly think he should move up in weight, but this fight, he should win it. I mean, I feel like the stand up, he's going to have the edge with the jab. The jab, I think, is going to be the tail of the whole fight. I think I said that on the early breakdown, but I still kind of stand on that. I feel like Vucinic, he doesn't move his head very well, even though he's like athletic, explosive. He's super talented. I think Jordan is going to do well in the UFC, but I don't think he's going to out grapple Guram. And I just think Guram's going to beat him on the feet. So, honestly, I think Guram, by TKO isn't a horrible bet, like plus 3 to 1, or Guram by decision. But I don't think the money line, has a lot of value on it though. What do you think, Billy?
I'm kind of on the opposite. I just had a lot of money on Jordan Vucinic in his last fight, him and Miranda Maverick. That was like a week ago, and I was really impressed by Jordan Vucinic. I kind of feel like some of his recent performances kind of like shy away from like what he's done on the regional scene. Like, yeah, he's fought some like bumps that he's been finishing by submission, but let's like roll back the tape to like his Cage Warriors championship fights. Like he beat Morgan Charriere, he beat Paul Hughes when he fought Paul Hughes the second time. That was probably one of the bloodiest Cage Warriors fights you'll ever see. So like, I think his durability is tough. I think he's a pretty tough fighter. I think the way to play, if you like the Jordan Vucinic side, is him decision no bet at plus 136. So if the fight goes to the judges' scorecards, I think that kind of favors Guram pretty heavily. I think Guram probably wins a decision, but I would probably bet Jordan Vucinic decision no bet and sprinkle a little bit on his decision prop at plus 460, like one of his decision or submission props. Like I would like if you really look at it in hindsight, like what has Guram Gudilate have done? Like he beat Gamrot in his UFC debut, took 2 years off, came back and hasn't won a fight since. His cardio's looked shit in his last 2 fights. Got knocked out by Elvis Brener, who's a big dog on this card. That was a fight that he gassed out. The Demir fight he gassed out and ended up losing a split decision, a fight that he was winning the early portions on. I don't think the cardio is that much in favor of Guram. Like even though Jordan Vucinic's on short notice, I feel like the camp that he had is basically a continuation. Like he's been asking for this spot. I think it's the direction of 2 fighters. I kind of don't like him fighting Guram specifically, but in theory, man, this checks up all the makings for being a good dog spot here for Jordan Vucinic.
Well, one thing I will ask you though, like, what do you think about the fact that he's moving up in weight though to 55s?
He fights at both weight classes on the regional scene, so it's not
But
like
he's not a like if you look
he's
at
not
him,
a real
155er.
155er. So
Yeah,
I,
like Guram
I
is
think
way bigger than him, dude. Like he's probably gonna have a 10-pound weight advantage at least.
I would
that
say
also,
from the Guram side, it's probably KO decision at minus 195, and you sprinkle the knockout.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying about like, do you think his he's gonna have the same cardio at 50? You don't think it'll be like a issue like if Guram's like wrestling him and shit?
Nah, if watching the Paul Hughes Jordan Vucinic rematch fight, that is like one of the like bloodiest fights you'll ever see. 9 out of 10 people in MMA end up quitting and wilting under that pressure. He stayed in there for all 25 minutes, and I think Jordan Vucinic can take an ass beating. I mean, a lot of the times when you see fighters come in on short notice, they usually just end up winning the decision and they win their second UFC fight. So that's kind of how I think this one goes.
What about you, Fitz? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm on Guram, but I gotta say, like the biggest question mark for me is the cardio and the durability of Guram, man. I think he fades in fights. If you look at all his fights, he fades, and I don't know if that's just something about him, if it's because he's cutting too much weight because he's so huge. But ultimately, man, I think he's so sharp on the feet. I know Billy questioned like what has he really done in the UFC, but he looks the part, man. If you watch the fights, even though they haven't gone his way, he always has had success in all the fights. The Brener fight was very successful before it wasn't. But that's a big question mark, is the durability. But for me, I think Vucenic, this is just too hard of a fight on short notice, unfortunately. I just don't think he'll be able to get takedowns, and I think it'll be all Guram on the feet.
Yeah, but honestly, man, I'm looking forward to that fight, man. It's going to be fun to watch.
It's a good one.
Yeah,
you got to learn about a prospect, and
I-
he's in the UFC.
I think the value is on the overs, though. Like, I think if Guram wins, it's
Yeah.
one of those fights where, like, he probably wins by decision. I think fight goes the distance, ends up hitting at -144, over 2.5, -182. I mean, not the best price tags on finishing props, but I mean, not the best price tags on going the distance props, but the Guram by decision at +125 is probably the most likely outcome.
Yeah, and then if you like people like you that like Jordan, you can kind of hedge with you can bet the Jordan's money line too or something. If you know what I mean.
I'm gonna take the decision no bet because I think if this goes all 3 rounds, which I probably think it does, like kind of just want my money back. Like Guram probably gets a 29-28 decision. But if Jordan Vucenic found some random ass shit and finished him, like I wouldn't be utterly shocked. But
yeah, that's a good point too from B-Negs where he said, but he said guys up a weight class on short notice have hit on multiple cards in a row. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I'm trying to remember
the one kid that was from Chimaev's camp the last time, the Lima kid, he fought
Lima.
Lima. He got the submission.
Hadley won last week. Yeah. Naimov isn't on girl. What do you mean Naimov? I'm not.
It's just like I feel like a lot of that camp for the All Stars gym had like a little bit of a aura, as the kids call it nowadays.
Yeah.
Like COVID and stuff like that, and everybody was like geeking up for him. But like, I don't know, man. That camp hasn't really been hitting like the same. Like the training sessions definitely aren't hitting like it was in 2020.
Yeah, Gene Silva, that's another good one. Yeah. So I mean, there is like some momentum on that angle, I guess, for sure. But Guram, I mean, I think he said in the interview too that this is the last fight on his contract. So he's going to be coming in here trying to perform. So he's fighting for his career here, and I kind of like. I don't like fading guys that are like super skilled that have like that against them. But I'll go first on this next fight because I got a bet on this one. I want to see if you guys think I'm crazy or you're more on my side. But I got Dontel Mays in this fight, and I'm actually like I think this should be like closer to a pick 'em, man. I feel like Dontel Mays' wrestling is underrated. I watched like quite a few of his fights where his defensive wrestling looked pretty good. He's able to get up. And I feel like Gaziev might be able to take him down early on, maybe a couple times. But I feel like Mays is one of these guys that he doesn't really quit on himself. He used to, but I think he's kind of past that hurdle mentally. And I think he's going to be the guy that can kind of fight through that fatigue better on the feet. I feel like he's going to be longer, faster, more athletic. He's going to have the more weapons. And I see him kind of moving around on the outside and kind of winning the stand-up. And I think that he could even eventually like defend some takedowns, maybe like put his weight on Gaziev and kind of grind on him a little bit and take some time off the clock that way. So I just think Mays has some value here, man. I feel like he's fought a lot more times in the UFC. He's fought guys that are good wrestlers before, like he fought that Hamdiab dual guy or whatever, and it was a really competitive fight. And Hamdi had to dig really deep in that one where I just don't know if Shamil is going to be able to do that. So I just think Dontel Mays has some value here. And I think the overs in this fight have value too. Like the fight goes to decision, the over 2.5, Mays by decision. So I like the overs and I like Mays here. So what do you think about it, Fizz?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very conflicted on this one. It's probably a pass for me just because, Gaziev is really dangerous in that first round. But if it goes outside of that first round, I think, the value is completely flipped. It's all Mays. So if you're on the over, you got to be on Mays. And I like that Mays decision, even though, Gaziev has faded pretty hard in his last fight. Mays just for me, you were talking about, some of his skills. He's just not that impressive as a fighter. I know, getting some good work at Jackson Wink, I like to see, but you also see like guys like Maurice Green fighting at Jackson Wink. So you just never know, This is just a pretty low level heavyweight fight, so it's hard to be confident. But I think the value definitely is on Mays at that plus 230 line. You know what I mean? It's a pretty good bet in my opinion, along with the over.
Yeah, I am a little bit worried about him getting kind of like ran over early, but another good
He
thing
really
about
doesn't
Billy
like to
is,
get hit. I don't think.
yeah,
I know he hasn't really been knocked out, but he kind of
yeah.
has weird reactions sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. A good thing about him, at least, is he usually doesn't get finished with strikes that often, which is, I think good in this matchup if he can survive early. But what do you think, Billy?
I like Gaziev a lot here in this matchup against Dontel Mays. He comes from the country of Bahrain. Bahrain
Kingdom
is
of Bahrain.
Yeah, Bahrain is to what Hawaii would be to like Americans. It's like a small little island from like the Abu Dhabi like region. And we saw the last time that they had the kid from Bahrain, the Magomed kid from the Dana White Contender Series. He looked really good over there. It kind of feels like they're like putting one of these Bahrainian fighters. Seems like a region that they're trying to tap into because there's a lot of money over there. When it comes to Gaziev's fight style, I think there's a little bit of recency bias of how he looked in his last bout, but you kind of see this time and time again with like Joe Pyfer. He kind of got a main event that was a little bit too early. He kind of got vet checked, and then what happens? He gets put in on a prelim with a right level of competition, and he runs right through the person adequately. I like Gaziev inside the distance here at minus 110. I think there's value on the submission prop. Because kind of like what you're saying about Dontel Mays, sometimes he just gets like sucked onto the ground, and it's not like him getting finished by punches. It's like him just kind of giving up positions, and like I think just Gaziev is going to have an 8-inch reach advantage. That's just going to be way too much for Dontel Mays to try to overcome like certain distances. I think Gaziev runs through him pretty early here.
Okay. So I guess we'll see with that one. Hopefully Mays looks good there though. Fuck. Next one. I hate the line on this fight. I mean, I feel like it's a pure dog or pass. But what do you think about it, Billy?
This is one of the ones where, like, in MMA betting, sometimes you just gotta like stick to like your gut and what you know and what you think, and you can't be afraid to look stupid. And that's kind of just the way I'm going in for this one. I'm getting the fighter with better cardio, who probably has the better grappling, and neither of them have won a UFC fight, and he's fighting in his home country, and he probably has the edge on the decision, and he's plus 315. Tell me where I'm fucking wrong. Like, I'm not putting Caio Fernandez in any parlays. I wasn't too impressed by him. He was a trendy underdog pick when he fought in that Brazilian card in his UFC debut, and you're out here getting fucking pillar beat the post by Mark Diakase. I know Muhammad Yahya didn't look good in his Trevor Peak fight in his UFC debut, but if you throw that fight out of the window and you just watch his UAE Warriors fight, he has the better cardio here. As long as he can weather the first. If you told me this fight went 15 minutes and this went to the judges' scorecards, I think people that have the Fernandez tickets are going to be sweating in their fucking boots. I like Muhammad Yahya money line and him to win by decision plus 600. And the over 1.5 at like minus 134. Even if he loses, I think this gets extended a little bit. You're getting the UAE Warrior former champion fighting in his home country at plus 300. I mean, like, fuck it. I'll look to be stupid then.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. So, but what do you think, Fitz?
Me too. I mean, I'm not gonna pick him outright, but I think the value is all on Yahya, fighting in his home country. I think that plays a huge factor, man. But Fernandez is, he's one of these kids that apparently grew up, in the gym with Jose Aldo at Nova and Yao, so that for me plays a big factor. That getting that praise from someone like Jose Aldo and being around him on a consistent basis is a very big deal. And I think I kind of like the submission prop here at plus 300, plus 250. I don't know why I was leaning that way, but something was just telling me that Fernandez gets a submission. But I think you should probably throw some money on the dog here, man, at plus 300 fighting in his home turf. Both of them pretty unproven in the UFC. The line should be a lot closer, in my opinion.
Yeah,
He's
I
got
mean,
the better cardio, bro. Like,
yeah, by
tell me
far.
he does not have the better cardio. Like when Fernandez fought in LFA, he was an underdog in all of his fights. Like, it wasn't like the market was like respecting him as a favorite.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I feel like if you look at their records too, Yahya actually has a couple good wins, or he's beaten some decent guys. So it could just be, a matter of his first UFC fight. He just had UFC jitters or something because he didn't do anything in the fight. It wasn't like he went out there and like threw all his shit and he looked like trash. He was just like not doing anything. It seemed like he was really worried about Peak knocking him out, and maybe he just froze. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. But he had that experience one time, and if I remember correctly, the last time he fought, it was in UAE too, right? It was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same scenario. So hopefully now, maybe he'll feel a little bit more confident. And I feel like early on, like Fitz is saying, I do kind of like that submission round one for Fernandez. If you look at his LFA fights, he does seem like he's aggressive early, like trying to take the back and go for those finishes. And Trevor Peak even took Yahya down at certain points. So I feel like he could maybe get that first round sub, but if it gets out of the first round, I think all the value is on Yahya, man. I mean, Fernandez, when he wins, it's like usually kicks early on, or maybe like I said, he could take you down and sub you early. But I feel like he doesn't have good hands. He's not like a good nail, man. I mean, once you start pressuring him and he's getting hit, I feel like if you could take away his kicks, he's not that good. And he gets sloppy with this wrestling too. So I like the value on Yahya here. I think that this guy could potentially get the victory in this fight. So at
The
plus
decision
300, I
prop
don't
at
think you could
plus
really look
600
wrong.
is wild, bro. Plus
Yeah.
600 for the dude that has the better cardio. The total is set at 1.5, like a little bit juiced towards the over. Like, this is the ladder spot of ladder spots. You bet the over 1.5, you bet the money line, and you bet the decision prop, and you hope he doesn't get finished in the first round. You should be out money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I totally agree. I think this could be a big cash. And I've been cashing a lot of big underdogs recently, man, like over 2-1. So
This
I think
reminds
this
me of the
could be one.
Pooja Tumar fight from a
Yeah,
couple weeks
2-1.
ago.
Yeah,
Like,
that shit was
nobody
sick.
wants to better. There makes no sense by the film, but like in theory and in narrative, it just makes sense, bro. Like, if
Yeah, they
the
might give
books are
her like
rooting for
Pooja.
Yahya,
A lot
like
of people are saying
people
that
have
shit
a
was a
lot of
robbery.
parlays.
A lot of people are
The
saying the
parlay,
Pooja shit was a robbery. It could be like the same thing here.
all the
Like Pooja.
parlay money is on Fernandez here on the early like portions of the card. Like, he's going to be a big parlay piece for a lot of people. And if he won by submission, I wouldn't be shocked. And Fitz can cash his little plus 300 ticket. We just move on.
Yeah. This next fight, man, I'll let you go first on this one, Fitz. Alonzo Manfield versus Asmat Mirzakhanov. Awesome fight, man. I mean, you think Alonzo's coming back a little bit too fast, though?
Yeah, and just in general, I'm a big fan of Ozma. As far as his striking goes, I think it's silky smooth. You know, the Teflon Chukwi performance for me is a bit of a red flag because he looked really did not look good before the knockout in that fight, but that could have just been the game plan. He might have been setting it up, and it was a beautiful finish at the end of the day. But yeah, I think fighting over there in enemy territory across the world for Alonzo, just a mistake. I understand, probably being hungry to get back in a victory. I think you said in your breakdown, get that taste out of your mouth, and I agree. So I'm not overly confident in Asmat. Like, I'm not going to be having him every parlay, but I like him to get the job done here. TKO KO plus 130. I don't love it. I would almost maybe go decision, just for the value, but it's tough because I don't know how Menfield's going to look after taking that tough knockout. 20 seconds into the fight against Olberg. But yeah, this could end up being a pretty close fight, I think. So I wouldn't, be hammering Asma in all your parlays and stuff, but I like him. I like him to get the job done, and he'll have some pretty serious momentum if you ask me. He just has to be a little more active.
Yeah. What about you, Billy? What do you think, man?
So, in theory, I feel like I shall like Almzat Mirzakhanov a lot this weekend. I've had a lot of money on him throughout the past, and like he's just delivers for me every time. Like he's one of those people that like will deceive you. Like you see him, he doesn't look like he's an MMA fighter. He's 5'10", fighting at 205, and you're like, what the fuck? And then he goes out here and he just has these spectacular performances. I wish he was a little bit more active out of the whole entire card. He's the fighter that had the longest layoff, so that's the only hesitancy of me like running to the betting window with him as like the main leg of my parlays this weekend. But I also think there's another hindsight. There's a couple of fighters on this card. The AE, what the Abu Dhabi commission is way different than the American commission. Of like, if Alonzo Manfield was fighting in America, he would have had to taken a 90-day suspension, and he would not be eligible to fight for this fight. But because they're fighting in Russia, he's able to fight on this card. Michelle Zajac got his arm ripped off. He would have gotten like a 90-day suspension if this was like Vegas or something like that. So like I think there's a side of the coin of like, should Alonzo Manfield even be fighting this fight? He looked good prior to that Allberg fight. He was on a 4-fight winning streak. His wrestling is probably where he's going to try to get his bread and butter going in here. But I think Amzat's going to be too good in the wrestling defense, and he's going to be able to check off enough takedowns. And probably I like him by knockout or decision to kind of defeat the juice a little bit. I don't really see this up for him. But if you told me you had a big dog play on Alonzo Manfield, I wouldn't tell you that you're fucking wrong or anything like that. Like if that's where you feel like you lie, then that's where you lie. But I'm gonna align more on the side of physics, and you shouldn't be fighting a fight after you just got knocked out on May 15th, which was not long ago at all. Like that, it just doesn't make sense that he's fighting.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel like this could be one of those fights where like maybe Alonzo's doing good, like he's winning the fight, maybe he wins the first round or something like that. But I just think at some point, as much as going to catch him and knock him out. I just see that happening for whatever reason. I feel like Alonzo struggles against southpaws closing the distance too. I mean, we've seen it in multiple fights where he's gotten dropped by southpaws. He got knocked out by OSP. So I think Murzakanov's going to be tough to wrestle too, because like you said, Billy, he has a weird body type for 205. Like it's hard to get under a guy that's like so short like that, and Alonzo's usually I feel like one of like the shorter guys that like uses like that to get inside and throw those big hooks and stuff. So I think it's going to be a weird matchup for Alonzo, and I think that it was an emotional decision. I mean, to come back this fast, because his last fight sucked. I mean, let's be honest, man. He went out there with Allberg and fucking I don't know what he was thinking.
That was a violent knockout. How do you feel about the total being at 1.5? Like, if you told me he didn't get knocked out, like I feel like the over should be a smash spot. But like,
I think it'll go. I still think it'll go over. But like you said, I can't bet it with that. With having that, because Osmat's a patient striker. I feel like. Like, what do you guys think? Don't you think Ozma is going to kind of like, he'll set traps and then pick his shots, right? Like, I don't think he's going to go out there and brawl,
Ozma 2-3 knockout plus 380.
Yeah, I think that's good. Like round 2, round 3, props on Murzakanovs or round 2, or like you said, round 2, round 3 plus 380. I think that's not bad, honestly. I mean, what do you think? You think it's like, what do you think the most likely path to victory for Ozma is, Fitz?
I mean, I think, like I said, I'm split between the decision and the knockout. I think it could go either way, but I would go over. I would typically think his fights will go over more than they won't. But maybe his game plan is thinking, hey, Manfield, just was in a bad knockout. Let me just go out there and take him out quick and make a statement. But I think that would play into Alonzo's favor and give him a chance to crack him. But I think I would lean decision or a late knockout.
And I like I was saying, though, if Alonzo, there's no way Alonzo's going to do that shit again, right? He's not going to sprint across the cage and get fucking knocked out in 10 seconds, So you'd think he's probably going to try to be like more timid and smart, maybe. So
yeah, I think he's going to wrestle.
That might help over. Yeah. Honestly, though, if he tries to wrestle hard, I could see him just getting fucking clipped early, like with a knee or something.
I don't know if he'll try to wrestle hard, but he'll try to be, leaning against the cage, use his size, use that, strength advantage that I think he has, just wrestle in that sense.
It's been that long, really. It's been 3.
I was gonna say if Amzat gets a finish here, dude, like he's kind of like a dark horse in this division. Like he's not a name that a lot of people are talking about, but like he's on a good win streak. If he stayed a little bit more active, like this is a good win for him.
Yeah, if he wins this, I mean, he'll definitely get like a top 15 next because he beat Jacoby too, right? He like destroyed Jacoby. So
Yeah.
Destroyed Jacoby.
yeah.
But how do you feel about it in a money line hindset? Like, are you putting him in parlays? Like 225 is not really straight bettable. Like, would you rather?
I think you could parlay him, but just with this card, I don't see like a lot of like people you could put him with, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those type of cards. I had to move some PFL stuff with some UFC and like combine parlays.
Yeah, like if you did that, I think like if you had, I don't know if you're PFL cast, but I think he would be like a good anchor, you know? But yeah, I don't know. Like this card, it's hard. Like I wouldn't even parlay Chiesa with him, man. I just wouldn't even do that, you know? So I just don't know if there's that many like parlayable guys with them. Like, what about you? If you had to, do you have a parlay for this card, really?
Come back to me with that one because I've been more focusing on the straight bets than the parlays too much because I had like the Cody Law Pregande Shara parlay as one, and then I had Cody Law Pregande and Shamil as the other one going off for the weekend. So I'm probably
bro,
just
we're gonna be opposite on both those. Fucking, I got.
it's just one of those ones where like it's like the Joe Pyfer fight. Like I was like Joe Pyfer got beat up by Jack Hermanson. The next fight that he fought, I went real heavy on Joe Pyfer inside the distance, and it was kind of like one of those ones where like I feel like Shamil Gaziev was kind of talked about as like the next guy up in the heavyweight division prior to like his last loss. And if he gets to finish, like again, like maybe that hype is around him. Bahrain is definitely a country that they're trying to get behind. I don't think they're gonna disrespect a Bahrainian. Like if he loses, probably by.
Then you said Jacob. Yeah, he went to decision, but I mean,
But it
he
was
got
dominant.
dropped. And, like he beat him pretty good, you know. But yeah, this next fight, I'll go first on this one. This is one of the best fights on the card, man. I mean, amazing fight. I wish Joel Alvarez fought more because every time he fights, man, it's always fucking amazing to watch. He's a killer, be killed guy. I feel like his style, you know, has a ceiling to it though, because it's just a marauder style. You know, he comes forward. His striking isn't the greatest, but he's so huge for the weight. And when he backs you up, man, I mean, I was talking about Guram's offense in the clinch, but this guy's elbows and knees in the clinch are like really, really good too. So I feel like it's going to be a battle of range, man. I feel like if Alvarez could be the guy going forward and pushing Brener back, he's going to have a great chance to win. I mean, maybe he could get Brener to shoot a bad shot and catch him, but I feel like the submission threat is not as readily there for Alvarez as it is against most guys. You know, I feel like Brener is going to be really hard to submit, especially off of Alvarez from his full guard, which is where he usually gets his submissions. I mean, he's training with shootbox Diego Lima guys who are, you know, probably throwing up all these submissions off their backs against him. So I feel like he's going to be really good with the defense. And I just think he's going to mix in the takedowns and be able to win a decision here. But Alvarez is really dangerous, man. I mean, he could go out there and knock Brener out. Another thing I'm a little bit worried about, if you're with Brener, is the cuts, man. I mean, we've seen Brener in multiple fights where he got really bad cuts. And Alvarez, if he throws these elbows, I mean, maybe he could slice him and get like a doctor stoppage, you know. So I'm a little worried about that. But yeah, I feel like Brener by decision, you know, is a decent prop to play this week. What do you think about that, Fitz?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I kind of been sleeping on Brener, you know, and it's hard to at this point because of how impressive he is. So I'm a little surprised, you know, how much, you know, he's still coming to these fights as, you know, he's not that big of an underdog, but it's a decent line, you know. I'm just a huge fan of Joel Alvarez. It's really hard for me to pick this fight. I just favor Joel Alvarez by decision. I think I'm a little biased because I don't really, you know, not that I don't like Elvis Brener. I just haven't really picked him, and he's kind of screwed me in a couple fights, and it just will take a lot for me to pick against Joel Alvarez. And Brener is definitely very tempting, but I just gotta favor Alvarez here because he's kind of my guy.
Yeah, Tristan, yes, I think he has a 77-inch reach, which for 155 is crazy. Yeah, but what do you think, Billy? You think Alvarez is going to come back strong here? Or you got Brener?
I, it's hard to pick against Alvarez. 17 out of 20 career wins by submission, all of his wins inside the distance, damn near. So it's like, man, it's like the margins of losing is very thin. Like you would have to like weather a storm and win a decision and throw more volume. So it's like, uh, it seems like Alvarez should win inside the distance. Under 2.5 is -154. Elvis Brener, I've been shocked by how good his hands have looked in the UFC. A lot of his regional scene stuff was him like grappling and stuff, and that might come back to haunt him in this one. I think he's actually going to try to engage in the grappling, and that might be either his benefit or his demise, winning a decision or losing it, or just losing inside the distance and getting caught in something. So it's like playing with one of those fires type of fight. And if you're down the narrative street, Dana White, if you don't know, now you know. This was one of the fights that he talked about on the prelim. So
It's a great fight. I'm really excited for it.
this fight was created for the under to hit. It's just if the fighters will be.
Well, I personally think it'll definitely go over 1.5 rounds though. Unless Alvarez, maybe he could win in the first. I think that's like actually, I mean, when I think about it, I think Alvarez's like most likely path is if he wins in the first round. That's like almost
That would
all
be a
his wins.
huge statement. A
But
first
that's what I
round
was
finish
saying.
from Alvarez. That is huge.
You
Over
said
Brener,
Alvarez by decision. That'd be he's like 0-1.
But it's wild though
career,
that
so.
it opened up +600 for him to win by decision, and it came crashing down to +470 across the markets. Like, when the fuck is a -200 favorite supposed to be +600 to win by decision? Like, that's just like numbers.
17 out of 20 career wins are by submission. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like all the numbers game. It just doesn't make sense. But I mean, honestly, man, this might be one that I might just let fall by the wayside. Like, it's gonna be like an early morning. You're probably gonna be.
You don't gotta fall by the waist. Just enjoy the fight, man. It's
yeah,
gonna be
like
a
I'm
thick
just gonna
fight.
enjoy the fight. Like,
Just
I
sit
don't
back.
want.
It's a tough one. This one of the toughest. These next two, really, for me, both of them.
Talking about enjoying some shit though, man. I enjoyed that fucking weigh-in, bro. Fucking Mackenzie Dern and Loopy. I mean, but I think Mackenzie will win this fight. I mean, she should win it. To me, like if you're just looking at it like skill for skill, Loopy's good. I feel like she got way overrated. Like her striking, I mean, she's so boxing oriented, man. I mean, she has like her high guard up, and I feel like she's gonna struggle. Like Dern's striking isn't good either, but she's more mobile. She's gonna be like throwing, I think, straighter punches. Loopy, if she can get into boxing range, like back Dern up, then maybe she could let her hands go and like hurt her. But I think if they're in close range, Dern's going to be clinching and trying to take her down or pulling guard and all this shit. And I just don't trust Loopy's decision making either. Like you look at her last fight with Virna, it's like she's going leg lock for leg lock with Virna and like engaging in the grappling. It's like if she's doing that with Mackenzie, I just think it's going to be a big mistake. But Mackenzie as a favorite, on this loss streak, I can't bet her. So I feel like it's a pass personally because I feel like Mackenzie should win, and I think if she was like on a little better run, she'd be a bigger favorite. I'm not like a big Loopy fan, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's a pass, but I think Mackenzie should win this fight, honestly. What do you think about it, Billy?
I think the biggest question is this grappling match that Mackenzie Dern has in a couple of weeks. It's on a pretty high-profile card. I forget what the fuck the name of it's called, but the main event's like a cross promotion where it's like Craig Jones is taking on Gabby.
Oh, yeah, but that grappling match she has, it's
He's
not like
on that card though, and the girl that she's facing is like pretty good at jiu-jitsu. And when they asked her about it on her media day, she said the number one thing that she's trying to do is not take damage in this fight. And like, fuck, man, if that's the case, I can see this fight being a real low volume fight. Neither fighter really throwing too much. And I kind of a fight that I don't want to have any money on because it's like, what side of the narrative do you fall on? Mackenzie Dern back in Abu Dhabi, where she did a lot of jiu-jitsu tournaments prior to like getting into MMA, or are you on the side of like, are they going to try to push Lupi Godinez with her sister also participating in the Olympics at the same exact day in Paris? So it's like, I kind of don't know which side of the narrative I fall on, so I just kind of want to pass.
Well, I mean, but to me, one thing I will say, like that really like look at the way Mackenzie, like how much success she had in the striking with Angela, and then look how Loopy, like she was getting outstruck by Angela. So I don't know. I think it's a big step down for Mackenzie, man. But
It's a big step down for Mackenzie, but I also feel like from a market standpoint of like everybody and their mom was on Lupi Godinez at minus 200 versus Verna Janaroba, and now she's like the underdog of like historically that's usually like a spot that I'm like looking to get behind, like a close price tag. But it's just like another thing that I kind of didn't talk about on the Dudakova one is this is the first time that they're going to have female fights over there in Abu Dhabi. They have that law over there about like the
well,
revealing.
I said that too, but people are telling me that
I don't
Dudakova
want
fought
to
on
bet
the
on.
last card.
I don't want to bet on them though. Like I just don't want to bet on the chick fights on this card. It just
Yeah,
seems
I
like
got you.
you're opening yourself to a lot of variance of like nobody knows what's really good. Like I feel like the two chick fights are like I feel better about Dudakova, and like in hindsight, I probably shouldn't. Like, so it's just like I think I'm gonna pass on the chick fight. The chick fights don't have good value on them. Like Lupi Godinez to win by
Yeah.
decision plus 135. Mackenzie Dern by submission or decisions minus 110. Mackenzie Dern, this is like what the bookies are kind of saying here. Mackenzie Dern decision no bet. So basically, if the fight goes all 15 minutes, she's minus 430 in that market.
Yeah, I think if it goes to decision, she'll win just because Loopy's like she just makes too many like mental mistakes, I feel like. But yeah, that's another good point. That's actually like a really good win, like in hindsight, like it aged well that when Dern like beat Verna pretty easy. But yeah, Fitz, you said this is a tough one for you. You're muted, bro.
I typically, lean Dern in a lot of her fights. Sometimes it works out, sometimes not too much. But I think if it plays out on the feet, she has the power edge, and I think she'll just be a little crisper. I don't know if Godinez, if she makes mental mistakes again and engages in the grappling when she shouldn't in this fight, that'll be a real big red flag for me, on her career, because she was making some poor decisions that cost her the last fight, going for submissions on someone like Verna. Um, but yeah, I think Mackenzie Dern ultimately gets a decision here.
All right, nice. And yeah, this next fight, best fight on the card by far right here, Tony Ferguson taking on Chiesa. I think it's pretty easy, self-explanatory who's going to win this fight. Tony's got this shit pretty easy. So, yeah, what do you think about it, Fitz?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about how Chiesa might not be coming in focus, but he looked pretty jacked on the scales, if you ask me. So I don't know how much that narrative could play. And Tony submission, it has, just bet it, just we all should be on it collectively. Because if it hits, it'll be one of the all-time, greatest moments. But I think Chiesa is going to probably dominate him,
Yeah, I
sadly.
mean, I don't got too much to say about this one. I mean, yeah, I guess it's not a bad fight though, to be honest, because I don't
I
think
mean, we get to
Chiesa's
see Tony Ferguson fight. I know it's crazy because it really has deflated. This losing streak has been so bad, but I mean, bro, it's Tony Ferguson.
Bro, it's the funniest shit. It's like at the weigh-ins, he still gets by far like the loudest cheer of anybody. Like the whole crowd is fucking chanting his name at the weigh-in. It's like,
Yeah.
well, that's why he's still in the UFC, guys. But I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you said Ferguson is gonna win. I have a go. I mean, I people have been saying that every fight, man. But yeah, hopefully it happens, man. I mean, I really want Tony to win. I mean, I feel like if he wins, maybe he'll be more content to like hang it up, But
There's no
yeah.
chance if he wins, he's gonna think he's back.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Billy? You don't got much to add, huh?
I kind of like the fight placement for this fight. So it's kind of sandwiched in between two fights that are heavily favored to go the distance in Figueiredo and Cheeto. The fight after that, and the fight before that being Lupe Godinez and Mackenzie Dern. I think there's a little bit of value on the under 2.5 here at minus 112, basically pick 'em odds. I think that kind of opens up the avenue for both fighters kind of finding a finish. It's not like Chiesa's like winning decisions. Like when he's winning fights, it's usually him winning inside the distance. And I think if Ferguson wins this fight, a lot of his upside is inside the distance. If you're betting Ferguson by sub, I think you also have to bet the fight ends by submission at plus 100 because I think the bookies make money if Chiesa wins by first round sub in this fight, and that probably what's gonna happen. Like, the way fights are lined, it's to create two-way action. With the price tag being -600 root Chiesa, you can't put him in a 2-leg parlay with anyone. You would have to put him in like a 3-leg parlay to get even odds this weekend. So they're hoping you fuck up on the other 2 legs, and then vice versa. It's high enough where they can attract people on betting Tony Ferguson on a 7-fight losing streak. So it's like the Chiesa should probably win, but like, I mean, what do you really want to do with it? I kind of like the under 2.5 is the best play.
Yeah. I mean, is that true, P-Nex? I thought Sam Alvey lost like 9 in a row or something.
I think he had one draw mixed in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, one thing you're saying, Tony and BKFC, I guess he could go to Karate Combat, dude. I mean, fucking Sam Alvey's the champ, dude. He's like fucking 10-0 over there. So maybe Tony could run it back over there. But yeah, man, I don't know. Hopefully everyone is praying for Tony winning tomorrow. But Davison Figueiredo versus Cheeto Vera. I'm a big fan of this fight. I mean, what do you think about it, Billy?
This is one when I first got into the beginning of the fight week, I thought it was going to be on Davison Figueiredo, and I thought, like, didn't even second guess it. But in reality, when I like break down like just the basics of the fight, who has the better cardio? Cheeto. Who's going to throw more volume throughout 15 minutes? Cheeto.
I don't know about that.
I'm just pretty low volume.
It's not like Figgy's like the most like volume based fighter. Like a lot of his finishes,
well, both of them, it's
a lot of his wins are like based off of him getting advantageous grappling positions. I think the value is all on Cheeto, bro. Cheeto to win by decision at +320 is like one of my favorite bets of the whole entire weekend. Like, if Cheeto won a decision, how shocked would you be? Like, it would be. I think that's the most likely outcome. Like, the market's being priced like Davison Figueiredo at +110 to win by decision. Like, they think that's the most likely outcome. Like, I don't agree with that at all. Like, Figgy has he's looked good at bantamweight, but Cheeto has the resume of winning decisions time and time again. I think the value is all over Figgy. If you're a market player and you don't really look at fight tape, the market's going to tell you that Cheeto's the best underdog of the card.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like, man, the decisions that he wins though, they're all usually 5-round decisions, and he's if there were 3 rounds, he would lose. You know, like the fight with.
But he goes into the fight knowing they're 5 rounds. You know what I mean? So that.
Yeah.
You know, it has to be attributed to the game plan, I think, to at least a certain degree.
Like, I'm trying to think, like, even the 3-round decisions, like, I guess he beat Pedro, but I remember he lost that, like, 3-round decision to Aldo, and Aldo, like, took his back and shit, like, and controlled him.
He lost his song
dog,
too.
But if Aldo's, like, taking you down and taking your back, dude, I mean, Davison is going to do that to you. You know, Davison's a better wrestler than Aldo, like, and he's actually offensive with it.
Figgy should be not. Like, Figgy is a big flyweight, and he's looked good at bantamweight, but I think Cheeto should be bigger than him.
Yeah, definitely. Cheeto's huge.
Yeah, Cheeto's a lot bigger. I mean, one thing I will say, like, every Cheeto fight, I think a good angle with every single Cheeto fight is wait till the second round and just bet on him, because I would say there's like a 95%, maybe not that high, but there's probably like an 80% chance he's going to lose the first round. I mean, he never does anything in round 1 in any of his fights. He loses round 1.
His cardio is never good though, bro. Like, the cardio is not even.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm just talking about like Cheeto. Like, I'm saying, if you like him, like after the first round, you'll probably be like +250 because he's gonna lose the first like pretty easily.
I'm just gonna take the decision prop at +320 straight. Like, I think if Cheeto wins this fight, it's probably a 3-round decision. He was playing.
You see guys like Luigi Burn and shit like winning rounds versus Cheeto. Like, just guys that are like, I think fucking Nolan Hernandez won a round versus Cheeto. It's like just these random ass guys that are like taking 1 round off of him, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like Davison. If it goes to decision, Davison's gonna win, man. I mean, how do you think Cheeto's gonna be able to stop the takedowns? Like, when is the last time he stopped a takedown?
Man, and that's like it's like but it's not a stamp. Like, it's not telling you to run away, throw a fucking $1 million on it. But like, the line opened up at -195, and it just came down to -136, and people are still saying Figgy's gonna win. Like, market tells you that Vera is the side. Like,
Well, I'm just asking, like, from like if you're when you're visualizing the fight, like you think it's gonna be like
round one's
stand-up
not going to
fight?
be like round one's not going to be sweet. Veras probably gets taken down throughout round one, pops back up. One of those ones where he probably loses a 10-9. But in rounds 2 and 3, where Figgy starts gassing a little bit, I think he could definitely like overcome the striking exchanges. I mean, like, if you rewatch the Cody Garbrandt Figgy fight, before that fight hit the ground, Cody Garbrandt was like winning in the striking exchanges. Like, he was popping Figgy in the feet and stuff like that. And if like Cody No Love is popping you in the face, like, shit, man, give me Cheeto at +320 to win by decision, while everybody has Figgy straight bets.
Gotcha. What about you, Fitz? What are you thinking?
I'm on Davison. I think he's wrestling, but I mean, looking at the line here, Davison by KO +1600. That's a crazy line.
I mean, bro,
that's I know Cheeto.
Every Cheeto fight, it's gonna be like, eventually you'll probably make some
But
money.
this is the first fight after he took a fucking beating, dude. Like a
that
really
is another
bad,
thing.
bad beating.
You're not worried about that, Billy. Like all that.
Usually, I like fading fighters that have lost like a championship, but this one is like market. I can't stop screaming about the market. Like, if you did a percentage of YouTube videos of what cappers are picking for this fight, it would be substantially Figgy 80%. If you look at the betting window tickets, it's substantially Figgy. But why is the line going from -196 to -136? Like, that just tells you that the dog is the side.
It is funny because it's like I'm like caping for Figgy, but I didn't have like the confidence to bet him, so it's like I didn't even put a bet on him. So it's like I can't be like that confident in him, you know what I mean? But because I'm thinking the opposite of you. I just think Vera always has that chance, like where it's like he's fucking losing 2018 to Frankie, and I got to bet on Frankie, and then he fucking knocks him out in the third round, or like Fawn is like beating him, outlanding him like 3-1, and he's just dropping him at the end of the round to like steal the round or shit like that, like, or maybe it could happen, but yeah, I think this fight's another really good fight though. Like, what do you think? You think if Figueiredo wins this one and then Sean wins, you think they're going to set that up though, that fight?
Depends how the main event goes, but either way, I think the main event gets a title shot before either way. To be honest, whether it's Corey or Umar, even though Umar, in my opinion, would be a little undeserving. Apparently, he was promised a title shot with the win.
They might roll the block and do. I know Aldo just got that fight announced not too long ago, but I wouldn't be shocked if we were around this time next year and like Figgy and like Aldo were like fighting on like some pay-per-view card at bantamweight, just like a fun fighters.
Yeah, I think they were asking. I do think it's going to go to decision. Personally, I do think so, and Vera round 3. I mean, I think in every fight when you're looking at like these late round props for Vera, they're always viable because the guy puts himself in a hole in a lot of his fights, and then he has to get the finish to work his way out of it, and he's like good at finding that chin and taking people out. So it's like I see it's like plus 1086 and to win in round 3. I mean, to me, I think that's pretty good. But yeah, this is me and Billy. Billy was saying he's got Shara and another parlay. I was saying we're going to disagree on another one. I mean, I got Mihao in this one, and I'm actually pretty confident on this pick, man. I mean, maybe I'm too overconfident, but I'm not sold on Shara, man. I mean, I watched a couple of his fights even outside the UFC where he's fighting these southpaw boxers, and it's like I thought a couple decisions that he had were like a little bit. He could have lost personally, but I mean, I think Mihaw's going to be better in the stand-up, man. And I know people are going to disagree with that, but it's like Shara's a good kicker, but he doesn't have any hands. I mean, you look at him in the pocket, he's just throwing blind punches, man. He's just trying to land that rear cross, and he's like, it seems like he has no composure on the inside. And Mihaw's fought a lot of really good strikers. He's fought guys like Chi Njokuani, Dustin Jacoby, bigger guys. He fought Khalil Roundtree. He was able to beat Khalil Roundtree. So it's like, man, I mean, he's beating these guys that are big, powerful guys, great kickers, elite level strikers. And when guys don't have a great grappling threat with Michał, he usually can get the job done, man. I mean, there's not many guys that have been able to outstrike him cleanly. He has lost a couple times to strikers, but most of the time when he gets a striking fight, he could walk you down. And I think that he's going to be the way better boxer. So Shara, I mean, I don't think he's going to be able to rely on single kicks to get this win. And I even think Michał could mix in some takedowns. I mean, we saw Bruno Silva take down Shara and control him for like 8 minutes. And Bruno Silva isn't a good grappler, and he lost to Chris Weidman. He had been getting knocked out.
Hey, no Waterman
But
disrespect.
it's but it's like, man, I mean, that wasn't a great performance from Shara, man. He could have arguably lost. It was a 50-50 fight with Bruno Silva, who's like clearly on the way out in his career. And Michał is coming off a horrible loss to Holland where he got his arm ripped off or whatever, but I don't think he took much damage. I mean, obviously he's coming back and fighting, so I don't think that arm was hurt too bad. It's not like he dropped Holland right before he got submitted. I mean, and the guy's fighting really high level competition. I feel like Shara is getting set up for a loss here, man. So I'm gonna go with Michał on this one.
Yeah, I gotta push back, man. First, I'm gonna say the fact that this is a co-main is a disgrace, man. This is worse than almost the entire main card and some of the prelims too. There's no reason this should be the co-main. You know, it really frustrates me because I mean, Figueiredo versus Marlon Chito Vera could be easily a headline a card, and the fact that it's under this fight, man, it is so stupid. It just makes no sense. But man, Michel is not even training with the team. I don't know how you can bet on him. He's just kind of like hanging out with a couple of buddies, and he's commenting on Instagram like, I'm gonna retire after I lose this fight, and I'm probably gonna lose. Like, I've seen that post going around.
Well, but dude, looked at the weigh-in, he looked in good shape and he was intense, so he looked ready to fight. I don't know, but I know what you're talking about. The comment or whatever.
I don't get how this is his third fight this year. The last time I was on this show, I was telling you guys about how I was so on Kevin Holland and I had so much money on Kevin Holland. Now he was gonna get the choke, and I definitely don't think Shara has like the style. Like, there's a positive and a negative. So like the negative is like what you said. Everything that you said is correct. Like, by the X's and O's, yeah, like Michel Ojacek has a way better resume. But I also do give him the positive for Shara of like, at least he's not fighting somebody that's gonna fucking try to grapple in him. Like the Tricali fight that he fought in the last fight. Like, say what you want about Tricali, like his BJJ jiu-jitsu game is legit. Like Mackenzie Dern's boyfriend or whatever. That dude's ground game is really fucking good. And Charu was very hesitant in that first round about throwing. And he just kind of like waited the storm a little bit, waited for the dude to gas out. And he just took over in rounds like 2 and 3. And that's kind of been like the story about him a little bit, is like he's like kind of like coming along in rounds 2 and 3 and winning these fights, but like waiting for his like opponent to gas out a little bit. I think you gotta fall into the side like if you think fights are rigged or not, like straight up. Like if you don't think fights are rigged, you should be betting Michel Ojacek. But if you think fights are rigged, you should be betting Shara, because like I hear you, you're correct. Like you're so right. Like
if you're just looking at it from like how they fought, like and how they fought these styles, like Michał should win, bro. Like
he should win, but like, bro, there's no way in hell that homie just got finished against Kevin Holland 2 months ago, and they're bringing him for a co-main event to let Shara lose after he just made his first movie debut last month. So it's like that aspect, like they're definitely trying to push Shara. Like the most eyes that they could get would be a Shara knockout. Like everybody's gonna fucking click the video. It's gonna be like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, co-main event. Everyone's going to be home. It's Saturday. So like the promotion and the social media backing is obviously in Shara's favor, but like, I do kind of agree with you. Like long-term wise, like he actually really isn't even that good. Like his striking.
Yeah, he's not going to do much in UFC.
He's not that good. So it's like, when will the like domino fall of like where you're going to catch him as like a big favorite? You can get big plus money on the other side. The day will come, but I don't think it's Zajac. I kind of want somebody that's going to grapple and not strike with him. If they told Michelle, like,
Well,
you
Michelle outright, he took down Khalil a bunch of times, but that was like a
know,
long
That was
ass
the
time
worst
ago.
performance of all time by Khalil.
they're going to say to him, dude,
Dude, that
don't
guy, he
wrestle
beat
with
a
this
legit
guy,
guy.
strike with him. And if this is like a striky kicky fight, like, dude, striky kicky fights are like the easiest fights to like kind of rig, and like
Yeah.
they want Shara to win. Like, this is a co-main event. This was not the original co-main event. They handpicked this fight for a reason. If this was in America, I don't think Michelle Zajac would even be passed by the commission to even fight. So like, why am I betting him in this one?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, did he actually? I didn't even. Did he actually have an injury though? Like after
Dude, that shit was wild because I had the Kevin Holland and all the tickets, and I remember him saying like, "All right, if you're not gonna call the fight, I'm just gonna rip his arm off." And then he said he felt his arm pop, and like,
Yeah.
how does that play into the striking exchanges? Are his shots gonna be labored? Like, how much
Well, that's what
training?
I'm saying. I don't know if like did it come
His
out
training
after the fight that he
situation
had
He doesn't
like
have a team.
He doesn't have a
training
team.
his-
Training situation was shit prior. We talked about that in the Kevin Holland fight. He just broke his arm and he's fighting 60 days later. Like, I don't think the training situation got any better. So it's just like everything outside of the cage is making me want to bet against him.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, it definitely isn't the great circumstances for him, but yeah, we'll see. I just think on paper, I mean,
The
he
value
should have
is
the
there.
better stand up, and I think he's a better wrestler too. But definitely could play bad for him. But main event, awesome fight right here, man. I'll let Fitz go first on this one because earlier in the week he was leading with Sandhagen, so I just want to know if he ended up pulling the trigger and if he still likes him here.
How could you not, man? I mean, at almost plus 300, Corey Sandhagen, I get it. Fighting Umar Nurmagomedov, who is one of the top prospect, if not the hottest prospect in the division. It's scary, but man, Sandhagen is so good. Working with Trevor Whitman, those might be the two best minds in MMA working together, in my opinion. And they've had this fight, planned for a while now. The game plan is going to be there. They're going to be ready for the wrestling. I think as the fight extended, Corey Sandhagen has deadly cardio, in my opinion. No, I coming off an injury, but I think he's gonna look great, and I think Corey Sandhagen just outworks him here, does more damage, and wins a decision. Ultimately, I'm gonna be betting it more just the fight to go to decision because I think that's just a safer bet. But I'll be on Corey Sandhagen on the money line at that steep price. Almost plus 300. I love it. I love it. I love it. His decision prop, I'm going to look down right here. Plus 750, man. Plus 650. Ridiculous, dude. Ridiculous, man. How could you be betting Umar Nurmagomedov at that price? How? Against Corey Sandhagen? It's nonsensical, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the line, I mean, there's no way you could talk yourself into betting Umar like minus 350 because it's like, how could you think he's going to win 8 out of 10 times when he hasn't even fought someone like ranked in the top 50 in the world? And now he's going fighting a legit top 10 guy, maybe even top 5 guy. So I do
Definitely
agree.
top 5.
Yeah, I do agree. The value's on Corey, but I don't know. I'm not pulling the trigger. I'm just gonna pass. I might, watch the early going, and if Corey is, looking good, maybe I'll put a bet on him or something. But Umar's undefeated. It kind of scares me a little bit. I feel like could just be a sucker's bet. Chasing the value there potentially, just because I think stylistically, we've seen guys that are lesser wrestlers or guys that don't, in my opinion, have like the MMA level wrestling, like with the timing. And I think Petr Yan got some takedowns on Corey. I'm pretty sure. TJ was able to get to his back.
But look at the guys you're naming: Peter Yan,
so.
Aljo, TJ Dillashaw. Those are some pretty
Yeah.
fucking legit UFC champions right there. All three of them.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, if you're like value hunting, you got to go with Sandhagen. But I definitely think like
I don't know if it's value hunting, just logical, man. The guy is a proven UFC superstar, dude. Like.
But you have to. I think the line is also where it is because of the issues.
His last name's Nurmagomedov.
Well, that too, but I'm saying Sandhagen. He's not the youngest guy. He's like almost 33. He hasn't fought in like 18 months. He had a torn tricep surgery, so it's like he's coming back in against a really tough guy off of an injury. Obviously, he's been in the UFC for a lot of
Yeah, it
years.
has not been
He has some
18 months.
miles.
It was almost exactly, he's fighting exactly a year to the date, pretty much.
Okay. Well, it's still been a while though. It's been over a year,
A
right?
year, yeah. No, year to the date, like
So,
literally
I
exactly.
mean, I don't know. I'm not saying it might not play any factor, but I do think like if that wasn't happening, like if they would have fought like 5 months after Sandhagen beat Font and there was like no injuries, he'd probably be like plus 200, But I do think you have to kind of factor that in. That's a bad injury, man, to tear your tricep like that. So I think he's gonna be fine, but he could, look a little bit slower. But yeah, what did you think about this one, Billy?
This is just one of those ones where it's like I hear Fitz on the Sandhagen, and like I'm. It's just one of those ones where it's just like everyone's gonna tell you about why Sandhagen shouldn't be this big of a dog, yada yada yada. But I just bring back that TJ Dillashaw Corey Sandhagen fight. It was like TJ Dillashaw's first fight from like a long layoff. He was coming off that suspension. And dude, that was not a good look. TJ was just pressuring him, beating from pillar to post, using his striking to get inside.
Most people thought Corey won that fight.
A lot of people did, but I had a TJ Dillashaw ticket, and I knew he
Me
won that
too.
fight.
TJ's like my favorite fighter of all time, dude, and one of the best fighters of all time. Like,
Well,
there's no
Corey's
shame
good
in a
at
close ass decision against TJ Dillashaw. Like,
but the path is there though. Like you can
yeah, that's the thing. It's just like matchup wise, like Corey, his biggest issue is wrestlers, So, but
I think there's value on Umar by submission in rounds 2, 3, or 4 at plus 550. I think he wins the fight. It's not something that like I'm telling you, put your life savings on Umar Nurmagomedov in a 2-leg parlay with Shara and come away with all the monies. No, I'm not telling you that. Like I just think he wins the fight. Like it's not value, but like if this fight was like sometimes you gotta like dumb it down to like if this fight was a pick 'em, who would you pick? I would probably throw fucking 10 units on Umar Nurmagomedov if it was a pick 'em. But for as long as I've been saying this, they've been waiting for this fight for fucking years. Sean O'Malley versus Umar Nurmagomedov in Abu Dhabi. Book it. That's just going to be a banger. It's going to be the biggest fight.
yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think a lot of people want to see Corey too. So whoever wins, it's going to be like a sick fight if Sean beats Marab, So, yeah, I guess. Did you actually end up putting a bet down on Corey Fitz?
yeah, and Corey by decision and the fight to go to decision. So 3 bets.
Word, nice. Yeah, honestly, I think this card it's tough to find like a lot of bets, but I got a few bets. Like I'll give you guys a couple free bets. I already gave you like I bet on Mays decision, Mihao, but I do think like we were talking about. I think Yahya has value too, man. I think Yahya's a good bet. The over in that Yahya fight as well. So there's a few spots that I like, that I think actually have like good value. So hopefully we can make some money this weekend. If any of you guys got like a favorite bet that you guys have, shout it out. And then if you guys want to say, where people could find you, Billy, you can go first, brother.
Favorite bet of the card, I'll say dog. Rolando Bedoya on the prelims, second fight of the night is going to be my favorite dog bet. And then my favorite bet, I'm going to go with Gaziev inside the distance at minus 115. If he doesn't win inside the distance, I think you actually probably end up in that Mays bet. I think it's like if you're trying to eliminate the juice on Gaziev, I think you bet him inside a distance because the longer that fight goes, it doesn't really favor him. He would have to win the rounds 1 and 2. But find me over at Getting Bills over on X, Billy Burrs DFS over on Instagram, and then Pub Sports Radio popping off tomorrow, live stream. Contender Series right around the corner. Should be very good, fun times. Thank you for inviting me on, breaking down some fights and hashing out some shit. Trying to make some good money this weekend, man. Big weekend for me here. Start off August nice.
Oh yeah, bro. And shout out to Mills. Mills was in here. He said Crawford win by KO Chico minus 130. Bet it. Don't regret it. So hey, I think he's fighting that Russian dude. To be honest, that Isramalov guy or whatever. I don't know much about him, but hey, if he likes that bet, put some money on it. Maybe you'll cash out. So, but what about you, Fitz? What do you think, brother?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty good spot on the prelims, you make a 2-team parlay with Guram and Cedric Dumas, and I think it's pretty safe, right around even money, maybe some plus money. I think that'll hit. Yeah, and you can Fitzmagic MMA on TikTok. You can find me. Yeah, it was
Nice,
dope.
guys. So thanks everyone for watching. Thanks you guys for coming on again, and we'll be back on Monday. Me and Fitz. We're gonna have Scouting Guru on, the other guru. So it's gonna be a fun podcast. 2 girls on 1 show, and we'll break down this fight card, kind of talk about next week again. And yeah, man, we're gonna be keep doing the show. So keep tuning in and watching. We'll have Billy come on again sometime. So thanks for coming on again, brother. And yeah, we're out later.